30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's at the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And now it's the Undefined Blitz with Chad and JC.
And welcome everybody once again to the Undefined Blitz right here on Undefined Radio and UndefinedRadio.com. Appreciate you guys and gals tuning in as we get you through another weekend of football. It was Thanksgiving football. It was rivalry week. It was a lot going on. It was a full weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of high impact football with a lot of surprising outcomes, some very close games, a lot of cool stuff that was happening out there. So we're going to talk about it. We got a lot to talk about.
Well, college football was far more surprising than the NFL was.
Oh, it definitely was. There's no question.
The NFL was pretty much par for the course this week.
Yeah. I'll say that Bills-Eagles game was good.
It was great. I don't think there's been a game that's been more indicative of the Bills being in their own way, the way they have all season, as that game last night against Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Or yesterday afternoon, whatever you want to call it.
True enough. We're going to start off with the Turkey Day games. Let's talk a little college football, though, is what we'll do. We'll go through that. The one game that day, of course, is the Egg Bowl. You had Ole Miss taking on Mississippi State in a very low-scoring affair.
It was
very low scoring.
Yeah, Jackson Dart was terrible.
Awful.
He completed about half of his passes.
Missing throws left and right.
I don't know if he even hit 100 yards in that game.
It was pretty bad.
The running game was working.
Yeah.
So, there was that. So you got to kind of take your wins where you can from that perspective. But it also prevented State from going bowling this year. So,
it did do that.
Well, I take that back.
They could still fill in a spot.
I think they are filling in a spot. Yeah. But they didn't earn
They didn't get to that 6-win mark.
Exactly.
Will Rogers is leaving Mississippi State, which I think, ever since Leach was gone. Did you see Lane Kiffin's comment after the game?
Yeah, about how much he missed him. But he also said, no one knew that was Mike Leach's last game.
That's right.
Of course, because no one predicted him to just pass away the way that he did.
Exactly.
So no one knew that was going to be Mike Leach's last game. So if that was to be his last game and Mike Leach ended his coaching career with a victory over the rival program, there's no better way for him to go out. But he misses him all the time. Missed him on Thanksgiving Day.
And but the players I think also missed him as well, and the whole offense changed. Which usually happens when you get a new coach. A lot of times they'll change schemes. Not a scheme that's beneficial to Will Rogers, who is a very good quarterback. There's nothing wrong with the kid.
And Will Rogers missed several games this year due to injury.
That's right.
And the team was down across the board.
They were. So I expect him to try to. He'll probably get with a pretty decent team, I would imagine, who are looking for his skills going into the next year, who are needing a quarterback. And of course, as offseason goes, we'll talk more about that. That's just some of the news coming out of the Egg Bowl, which Ole Miss did win 17-7. Once again, low scoring affair. Ole Miss has its second 10-win season.
10-win regular season.
That's right. And now so they're trying for 11.
The first ever 11-win season in program history.
Which is going to be wild if they can pull that off. Which I can't wait to see who they're going bowling against. Have they said yet? Because I think Penn State was one of the names being floated around.
Well, we won't really know until these conference championship games play out this weekend.
All right, we had Friday. We had Texas beating up Texas Tech 57-7, which saw the debut of Arch Manning, and good Lord, was that place rocking when he came out on the field.
Well, Quinn Ewers told him on the sideline, he was like, they're pulling me out. You're about to go in. And he said, this place is going to lose it when you check in. And that's absolutely what happened. But the best part of this was, think back to the beginning of the regular season. It might have been right before the season started. Brett Yormark publicly.
Yes.
Publicly.
So this is your Big 12 commissioner.
Yes. Brett Yormark, Big 12 commissioner, publicly reached out to Texas Tech because Texas Tech was predicted to be the second best team in the conference this year.
Yes.
And basically told Texas Tech, I'm going to be rooting for you this season. I want you to go into Austin at the end of the regular season and send Texas out of Big 12 conference play, with a loss and embarrass them on their home field. I'm paraphrasing,
but that's
essentially the message.
That's right.
And so not only did that not happen,
yeah,
but Texas Tech got their asses run straight out of Austin.
Oh, they did. In ugly fashion. It was such a dominant performance.
I mean, not only did Texas put up 50 points on Texas Tech, but they beat them by 50 points.
Yes, exactly.
And that was when they went into cruise control in the fourth quarter and
pulled out all the stars.
They had Arch in there. Like, Arch played a little over a quarter. He played a quarter and change of football.
That's right.
He threw 5 passes.
Yep.
Like they were running the football.
Yes, they were.
That's all they were doing.
They were killing the clock, getting Arch some reps in there because Murphy got hurt on a play out of bounds. And so that's why he didn't come in. So they put Arch in there. Everybody's waiting for him to throw, then complete that first pass.
Yeah. Well, Texas has had a 100-yard rusher. I forget what the streak is. I know it's at least 10 games. It might have been all season. They've had at least a 100-yard rusher. Well, Jaden Blue hit that mark in this game. He only touched the ball 10 times.
That's crazy.
And had like 121 yards, I believe.
It was a wild game. Great win for Texas.
Now, most of that was on one long run, but, semantics.
Yeah, but I love it. I love that Texas topped the division. Now they go into the Big 12 championship game next week.
Which I was fully expecting them to be staring down Oklahoma based on, conference record and all that. But the way it shakes out with the tiebreakers goes to Oklahoma State.
It does.
The Cowboys, who really had to prove themselves this past week, too.
I really wanted it to be Oklahoma because I wanted that revenge game. And I wanted both those teams to be the top 2 dogs fighting in the Big 12 championship on the way out.
Yes.
That would have been perfect symmetry right there.
Because Oklahoma is 10-2.
Yes,
They're 7-2 in the Big 12. Texas is 11-1. Oklahoma State, I believe, is 9-3. And they were 7-2 in conference play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 9-3, 7-2 in conference play. So even though they have a worse record than Oklahoma State has a worse record than Oklahoma, but due to the tiebreakers,
that's right.
Oklahoma State gets the burden
because you go by conference record.
Well, they have the same
tiebreakers.
Record.
That's what I mean. So then you have to go with the tiebreakers. Oklahoma State beating Oklahoma. There you go. That's why we're in the situation we're in.
So basically, University of Texas this week in the Big 12 title game, your job is to shut down Ollie Gordon III.
That's it.
Or the second, rather. Shut down Ollie Gordon. You win the Big 12.
That's right.
On the way out, which is just beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Because and it's weird as a Texas fan having long defended that conference.
Yep.
Even when they were just woefully bad.
Oh God.
Because there used to be years where that was a strong conference.
Yeah.
And granted, that was in the days when A&M was in that conference. And Missouri was in that conference. Yep. And Nebraska was in that conference.
Yep.
And Colorado was in that conference.
Yeah.
Seems
like a lifetime ago.
It was. It was well over a decade ago at this point. And so when all those teams were in there, Texas would be up, Oklahoma would be up, Tech would occasionally be up.
Yep.
A&M would be up, Nebraska would be up, Colorado occasionally would be up, Missouri occasionally would be one of the best teams in the country. And all those 4 schools left for greener pastures: the Nebraska, Colorado, A&M, and Mizzou. And it really kind of killed the Big 12 conference as a whole for a very long time. I mean, you had a mini resurgency of stuff like with Baylor and RG3 kind of stepping up. And then you get, a run like TCU had last year where they got the national title game where they ultimately got embarrassed by Georgia.
Pretty much.
But you had these moments, but it's been a bad conference.
It has.
For 10 years. It's been dominated by Oklahoma. And, I mean, no one can take away from what Oklahoma's done.
No.
As far as this decade-plus run that they've had. I mean, really, if you want to be honest about it, you can go back 20 years to when Bob Stoops got there in 2000.
Yeah.
So, but for it to come down to this, where it's Texas, Oklahoma State, like we were saying, I would have loved for it to be Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's just been fitting.
Especially if Texas could have gotten the revenge win from the Red River shootout, rivalry, whatever you want to call it, back in week 6, and take the Big 12 title with them to the SEC.
Oh, man. No, I know it.
Like, that's, that would have been the college football version of Alundra Blaze showing up on WCW Nitro as Medusa with the WWF Women's Championship dropping in the trash can.
See ya.
See
ya.
And look, Texas could still do it. Like, all they have to do is win Saturday, and that's still a thing.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. I mean, all they win Saturday, they're Big 12 champs. Nothing else. Whatever else they do in the bowls doesn't matter. But if they do that, that's it. And that's what I'm looking for.
I have big ambitions for Texas this year, and they've lived up to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were hoping for a great season like this, and it has turned out beautifully. Yeah, Oregon beats Oregon State 31-7. Missouri beat Arkansas 48-14. These are Friday games, by the way. Penn State blanked Michigan State 42-0.
To no one's surprise.
You had Oklahoma beats TCU 69-45, in which they decided we're not going to play defense today.
Well, Oklahoma had that massive second quarter.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Oklahoma had 42 points at halftime.
That's right.
And then TCU comes out in the third quarter, and they lit it up themselves. And so it was just kind of it was too little too late for TCU. I mean, they scored 45 points and lost.
Yeah.
That's just
still lost by 24.
That's how bonkers Dylan Gabriel has been at times this year. Like, Dylan Gabriel can't sustain that level, but, man, when he's on, he is one of the best in the country.
You had Iowa beat Nebraska 13-10 on last-second field goal. And Tulane beat UTSA 29-16. Then we head into Saturday's games, and this is where, because we're about to talk about championship week here in just a minute. So I'll run through these. Georgia beats Georgia Tech 31-23. Georgia Tech put up some late points to make it look respectable, but Georgia had this easy. Ohio State, Michigan.
Bonkers, boy.
This game.
Bonkers.
This game.
Bonkers.
With everything that's going on with the Michigan deal, John Harbaugh not being on the sidelines, all the stuff that has happened here, it would have been totally acceptable to figure that Michigan could lose this game just because of all they're having to endure from that point. There's so many distractions. But all this team did was go and take care of business.
And what was wild was the game was back and forth.
Yep.
For a long time. Ohio State did miss a field goal in that first half, which kind of would have gotten them into a situation late in the game where the way that game was managed at the end would have been different, because there would have been a different score. It would have been 27-27 with Michigan trying to win the game instead of Michigan trying to put the game away.
That's right.
But what really changed was, I think it was in the third quarter, Michigan center goes down, blew his knee out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they took him to the hospital.
Yeah, they took him directly to the hospital. The whole team was out there.
Yep.
And a few Ohio State guys were out there. Like, that's how
Awful.
uncomfortable it was.
Yep.
Literally the next play from scrimmage, because this was a long, it probably took 10 minutes.
Real
time to get his leg stabilized enough to transport him. Next play from scrimmage, Blake Corum breaks off a 22, 27-yard run, something like that, for a touchdown. And then Michigan had all the momentum. And Ohio State kind of fought. Really fought to try to steal some of that momentum away. Michigan gets points late in the game to stretch their lead out a little bit. And then Ohio State, with, a minute left in the game, 5 seconds, no timeouts. They get the ball, have to go score a touchdown.
Yeah.
First play looked like a miscommunication. Ball wasn't really near the receiver. Receiver was in the area, so it wasn't grounding. But the next play, big pass down the sideline to Marvin Harrison Jr. The play after that, they hit a deep in route I forget which receiver caught it, but he catches it, takes a couple steps, is trying to take that third step, and the ball gets punched out. And they called it a fumble on the field, but it was recovered by Ohio State. Another Ohio State receiver just happened to be there, hopped on it, they reviewed it, upheld the ruling. So Ohio State had to go because the clock was going to start when the ref blew the whistle. They get up there, and Kyle McCord drops back to throw the ball, and I can't even put this on McCord. He does throw an interception that sealed the game. But watching the edge rusher from Michigan, and I wish I had paid attention enough for his name. I was just kind of blown away by what he did. But he's on the edge. He stunts back inside, bull rushes the left guard, puts the Ohio State left guard flat on his back, and absolutely clobbers McCord while hitting his arm simultaneously as McCord's throwing it. So McCord gets no arm strength on the throw. It's just this wobbly duck that floats through the air. The DB from Michigan manages to get his arms underneath the ball, secures the interception. All Michigan has to do is take the knee, and they win not only a game of 2 versus 3.
That's right.
But one of the biggest rivalry games in the nation. The winner of that matchup going to the Big Ten title game.
Yep.
Also a playoff spot on the line. Like, there was so much at stake. And what was bonkers is when Michigan gets that pick and they seal the game, you hear the big house erupt. It's going crazy. Charles Woodson's at the other end zone, losing his mind. And then the DB comes to the sidelines. Literally everybody's dapping him up. Coaches, assistants, equipment managers, players, teammates. Charles Woodson came over there and dapped him up. And they go to review to see if he secured the interception. And then when they announced it over the system that it was, in fact, a confirmed interception, that place exploded again, even louder somehow. And I was just like, this is the stuff that makes college football incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And we talk all the time.
Good drama.
We talk all the time about how the NFL is a better football product than college football, and it is.
Sure.
But atmosphere in college athletics, regardless of sport, is unmatched, especially in a venue like Michigan, or even if this game was at Ohio State, where there's 100,000 people in there.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone is going bananas.
Just losing their minds. Sports is great, folks.
Stuff that makes the game special.
It really does. Washington beats Washington State 24-21.
Hard fought game. Washington managed to pull out the field goal at the end to beat, a 5-7 Washington State team. And Washington stays undefeated. But here's my thing. Like, everyone's talking about Florida State doesn't have Jordan Travis, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't. He's done for the year. He's done with college football. Do you think the difference in opponent or level of competition in this Washington State game and the Florida State-Florida game? Because, look, Washington State's 5-7. Florida's 5-7.
That's right.
So both these undefeated teams, Washington and Florida State, beat a team that was 5-6 coming into the game, left them at 5-7. But they scored the same amount of points. Washington and Florida State scored the same amount of points.
But I think Florida State's is more impressive because of their lack of starting QB.
Lack of starting QB. Michael Penix for Washington, one of the best in the country.
Yep.
Not only that, but Florida State played an SEC defense. Washington State played a low-tier Pac-12 defense. And Florida State gave up fewer points.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, do you think this is enough going into conference championship week for Florida State to secure that 4 seed, at least for this week, going into the conference championship games?
I could see it going into this week because for all the reasons you just said, there was a more impressive victory. Because honestly, Washington's wasn't impressive enough for what all they had weapon-wise out there.
Absolutely.
Starting QB, everything else. They should have went through Washington State. They did not. We were wondering what Florida State could do without their stud QB out there on the field. And all they did was still win a football game. Where your field general is not there. All right, that guy is no longer there. He's not going to be. And all they do is go out and win again. To me, it definitely is the more impressive of the two. And if I was in that committee, I would have to give them credit and say, look, here we are. This is the scales. Florida State, boom. Definitely better. All right, we had Alabama. Another game where this team, I don't know how much of his soul he sold.
Most of it, at least.
I'm thinking several times over.
Yeah. I would say
lifetimes over.
Roughly 89% of his soul.
But Alabama pulls off this miracle, 27-24, with that 4th and 31 touchdown.
Oh, fourth and
goal from the 31. Excuse me.
And this is not the first time we've seen this kind of magic from Alabama. Now, not this Alabama team.
Yeah.
You remember the national title game.
Absolutely.
Alabama versus Georgia. Jalen Hurts playing terribly.
Yep.
Gets benched at halftime. True freshman Tua Tagovailoa comes in, and he threw a miracle 4th down bomb to Devontae Smith, I believe it was, to win that game and win that national title. So Alabama is notorious for pulling out this magic, but I thought, at least for a moment, I was like, damn, Hugh Freeze is about to get his 3rd win against Nick Saban.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, granted, I know that 1 or 2 of those don't count anymore officially, but we all saw it.
That's right. It happened.
So I was like, Hugh Freeze is really about to pull this off. Like, there's no way they convert 4th and goal from the 31. And not only, it wasn't like the receiver was wide open. It was decent coverage on the receiver, and he just mossed the guy at the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
It's a crazy play. So in that respect, like, while that's a wild play, I feel like that play is going to be valued too much.
Oh, it definitely will be. Oh, there's no question.
I don't think Alabama jumps Texas.
I don't think they can.
At least this week.
Yeah.
If Alabama beats Georgia Saturday, then they absolutely
they probably
will. But Texas dominating Texas Tech.
Yep.
Even though Texas Tech was supposed to be a lot better than they were this year, beating them by 50 points is more impressive than Alabama having to pull out a prayer.
That's right.
On the last play of the game.
Exactly.
Or, what essentially was the last play of the game.
Yep. And it really was. So we have Kentucky beating number 10 Louisville 38-31.
Man, everything was going so well for Louisville just a few weeks ago.
It was. Boy, talk about the wheels falling off. LSU destroyed Texas A&M 42-30. They really were losing this football game.
But I'm be rooting for Louisville super hard this weekend. Because if Louisville beats Florida State, that ups Texas's chance of possibly making the playoff.
Oh yeah. Arizona beats Arizona State 59-23. Notre Dame beat Stanford 56-23. Iowa State beat 19 Kansas State 42-35.
All right, so did you see this game?
No.
Snow everywhere.
Oh shit.
All over Kansas. Just thick pockets of snow. But I guess it was a dry snow.
Yeah.
Because these receivers were out there cutting, doing their thing, not slipping and falling. So that was kind of impressive. But the big takeaway is in this game, Iowa State had 5 touchdowns of 70 yards or more.
Good Lord.
In the previous 51 games that Iowa State had played, they had 4 such plays.
That's sad.
In 51 games. That's what, 4 years, basically? Or 4 years and change. And then in one game against Kansas State, they had 5 of those kind of plays. And it was exciting. Like, these teams were trading points back and forth the entire time, and then Iowa State just pulls away in the fourth quarter. But incredibly fun game that had no business being that entertaining.
Oklahoma State beat BYU 40-34.
BYU was in control of this game in the first half.
Yep.
Like, they were, I don't want to say cruising, but they looked like they were going to find a way to pull this out. And I thought for sure that's it. It's Texas, Oklahoma.
Yep.
It's the way this thing is going down. But Oklahoma State,
really,
they pulled out the old Lee Corso not so fast. and went off in the second half to the tune of 21 points to force overtime. I mean, they went on a 21-3 run in the second half to force overtime. And then in double overtime, they score a touchdown. And then BYU it was like a 2nd and 10 play. They hit an out route to their receiver, and the DB for Oklahoma State runs up, punches the ball out, forces the fumble, and the ball bounced right to him.
Yeah.
And so he just goes down. Oklahoma State wins, and they punch their ticket to the Big 12 title game.
You had Tennessee beating Vandy 48-24. NC State beats North Carolina 39-20. We have Clemson beating South Carolina 16-7.
In their last 6 games, North Carolina is 2-4.
Yeah.
In their last 6.
That's wild.
After starting off 6-0.
So good. And Liberty beats UTEP 42-28 to go undefeated throughout the regular season.
I don't know if anyone thought Liberty would go undefeated without Hugh Freeze.
To be honest, I didn't really either.
And
all they did was do the thing.
They definitely did. James Madison. So we know they lost last week to Appalachian State, or 2 weeks ago, however you want to phrase that. But the thing was that with James Madison being their first year as a D1 team, they're by the NCAA bylaws, they're not eligible for a bowl game.
Yeah.
Same for Jacksonville State and North Alabama, which North Alabama wasn't going to make a bowl game anyway. They're terrible this year. But the NCAA went ahead and gave James Madison the waiver because the fact they went 11-1 in the regular season.
I mean,
come
on.
Like you earned it.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that has to be done. And I will definitely give the NCAA props for that. I mean, because you got a team right there, you got to reward them for the things that a team can do, because winning is not easy at any level. And just the fact that they were able to do it was great. All right, we're going to look at the top 25 right now. This is the AP top 25. We will have more CFB tomorrow night.
Yeah, we get
which will be interesting.
The next to final college football playoff rankings.
That's right.
Are coming out tomorrow night.
So as the AP rolls, let's go. Georgia is at 1, Michigan's at 2, Washington's at 3, Florida State's at 4, Oregon's at 5, Ohio State dropped 4 spots to number 6, Texas.
Wow, man.
Alabama stayed the same at 7 and 8, respectively. Mizzou is at number 9, Penn State's at 10, Ole Miss is at 11, Oklahoma's at 12, LSU at 13, Arizona at 14, Louisville dropped 6 spots to 15. Notre Dame is at 16, Tulane 17, Iowa 18, Oklahoma State 19. Liberty's up to 20. You have NC State, who was unranked, is now sitting at 21. Oregon State dropped 6 spots to tie them at 21. Toledo's at 23. They were unranked. James Madison, they stayed the same, 23, and then James Madison stayed the same at 24. And SMU, who was unranked, is up now into number 25 spot. And that's your top 25 going into tomorrow night.
I've got a big problem with this.
I figured you might. Let's talk about it.
And it's this 5 through 8 range, man.
Yep.
Right? So 5 through 8, you got 5 Oregon, 6 Ohio State, 7 Texas, 8 Alabama.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we all knew Ohio State wasn't going to fall too terribly far.
No.
We knew they'd fall out of the top 4.
Yeah.
But we knew it wasn't going to be far. So, because of virtue of that, they lost to Michigan.
That's right.
They were only 1 apart in the rankings.
And
anyway,
this is a very close game.
It was a close game. So I don't have a problem with Ohio State being ahead of Texas, but I got a huge problem with Oregon.
I do too.
Their strength of schedule, not nearly as tough as Texas's this year. Granted, they lost. Their one loss was to Washington.
Yep.
By 3 points.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a good loss.
It is a good loss.
But they beat then number 13 Utah 35-6. Turns out Utah's not very good.
That's right.
Like they're okay. They're a decent team.
Yeah.
But they're not a good team. They beat up on, Cal. They beat up on Stanford. They did beat up on then number 19 Colorado, but Colorado ended up being 4-8 this year. They dog walked Portland State, but Portland State's an FCS school. Yep. They dog walked Hawaii 55-10, but Hawaii is a group of 5 school. They beat Texas Tech by 8 points. Texas Tech just got beat by 50 by Texas. Yep. Common opponent.
That's right.
You look here. They beat USC, who can't play defense, and especially hasn't played defense the last 5 weeks of the season. Only beat them by 9 points. And they destroyed a terrible Arizona State team. And the victory over Oregon State is their best win all year. The one they had this weekend. That's their best quality win over number 16 Oregon State, 31-7, going into this game against Washington. Whereas conversely, you look at Texas. So, like, we all know that Texas's best win is Alabama.
That's right.
They went on the road.
That's right.
Into Tuscaloosa.
And won.
And beat Alabama. You know who does that?
Nobody.
Not very many people.
That's right.
Hugh Freeze did it with Ole Miss.
Yep.
10 years ago. But this isn't that. So yes, Texas lost to Oklahoma by 4 points in the final seconds of that game. At a neutral site game. So they weren't in Oklahoma, but they weren't in Austin either. So that's the only loss for Texas. But Texas dog walked Texas Tech, as I pointed out earlier. They beat Iowa State 26-16 in a game that wasn't even that close as that score would indicate.
Yeah.
And that Iowa State team, their offense just looked like they were in God mode against a pretty good Kansas State team this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Texas beat then number 23 Kansas State by 3 only. It is a hard game. Like I said, Kansas State's a good team.
That's right.
They absolutely blasted Kansas. 40-14. Kansas was number 24 at the time. Pretty good team. Not a great team.
Pretty good.
But they're better than decent.
That's right.
That BYU team that just gave Oklahoma State problems this weekend beat them 35-6. I think it's pretty wild that Texas didn't play Oklahoma State this year until this game.
Yeah, it is interesting.
That final goodbye there. Also, Texas didn't play West Virginia, which is kind of interesting. They almost always play West Virginia. But I just think the strength of schedule for Texas, little more, or not even a little, substantially more impressive than what Oregon has. They have the same record. They have the same conference record. The difference is Oregon lost a true road game at Washington, whereas Texas lost a neutral site game against Oklahoma.
That's right.
But I think more plays into favor of Texas being a better team worthy of being ranked higher than Oregon.
That's right.
Especially if
I really felt like Ohio State should have been 5, Texas should have been 6, Oregon. And here's the thing. If you want to drop them ahead of Alabama, okay, but I still think Alabama's a better team than Oregon all day long, but there's no way Oregon's 5 over those 2 teams. And probably those 3 teams, honestly.
If Texas wants to get into the college football playoff, they kind of have to root for Oregon this week. Because
Oregon's taking on
Washington,
right?
They get the rematch. If Oregon beats Washington, Washington's going to fall out.
That's right.
If Florida State loses to Louisville, Florida State's going to fall out. But by Oregon beating Washington, that means Oregon's in. There's no argument for it.
That's right.
Oregon's in. And if Louisville beats Florida State's going to fall out. And if Texas handles their business, they're in.
They should be, for sure.
For being not only
conference champion,
11-1, 11-1, great strength of schedule. Yep. They'll be 12-1 if they win the conference title.
That's right.
So 12-1 conference champions is more impressive than Ohio State being 11-1
And
non-conference champion.
Exactly.
Not having even played for their conference title.
That's right.
And I think Texas could. That's the only way they get in, though. They need Oregon to beat Washington, and they need Louisville to beat Florida State.
Yep.
And Florida State's backup quarterback.
Well, let's talk about those games because they're coming up this weekend. We'll start off Friday in New Mexico State versus number 25 Liberty. The line is Liberty by 10 at home.
New Mexico State's actually been pretty good. They just went into Jordan Hare and beat Auburn.
That's right.
A couple weeks ago. Which I know Auburn's not great, but they did just push Alabama to the brink. I'm going to take the Flames at home in that one.
All right, then we've got Friday night. We've got number 6 Oregon, number 4 Washington. The line is Oregon by 9.5 on the road.
Well, Washington has not been playing too well here lately. Bo Nix is playing as good as any quarterback not named Jaden Daniels in the country.
37 touchdowns, 2 picks.
I'm gonna say the game is closer than 9.5.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna say the Ducks win.
All right, and of course Saturday at 11 we've got Oklahoma State taking on the Texas Longhorns. The line is Texas by 14.5 at home.
Man, 14.5.
I say at home. It's in Arlington Stadium.
Yeah, so at AT&T Stadium,
AT&T.
home of the Cowboys. 14.5 is a lot of points for a conference title game. But it's college football, so we know these games can get that way. Texas is the better team. I mean, they are just all the way around. They're deep at receiver. They're deep at running back. They've got a stud tight end. They've got a solid offensive line. As long as Quinn Ewers can stay healthy and the defense can make some plays, like Texas should win this game comfortably.
There you go. Number 1, Georgia. Number 8, Alabama. SEC championship game. This is in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. The line is Georgia by 6.
So, I was talking about that scenario where how Texas gets in.
Yeah.
Well, the way Texas doesn't get in is if Alabama beats Georgia, because Georgia's not falling out.
No, they're not. There's no way.
They've been too good against great competition this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think Georgia's a good enough team that they're going to find a way to beat Alabama in this game, especially since Alabama hasn't looked just super impressive this year. Even though they've been good and they found ways to win games against good teams, like Georgia just feels more impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Although I'm not completely sold on Georgia the way I was last season or the year before.
I was going to say, they're not as strong as they were last season. They haven't said that. They're still a strong
Still
team.
good.
They are still very good.
Still very good. I'm taking the Bulldogs.
We've got SMU taking on Tulane. The line is Tulane by 5.5, and that will be in New Orleans at Yulman Stadium.
Man, like that, it feels like Tulane is the right answer, but I cannot help but feel like the Mustangs win it.
They're on a roll here lately.
And they're on a roll. Tulane's one loss, as I've talked about ad nauseum on the show, is to Ole Miss. So they lost to an SEC team. Let me see who SMU dropped to this year. They're undefeated in conference play. SMU lost on the road at Oklahoma, and they lost on the road at TCU.
Yep.
So they lost to 2 Big 12 teams. Man,
you can't say the Bulldogs suck. They're number 1 in the SEC right now, huh? Defending national champions. Bulldogs don't suck. They're a lot of things, but sucks ain't one of them.
Who's saying that?
Christy Owens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think Georgia's going to be fine. But, yeah, going back to this SMU-Tulane American Athletic title game, man, I think the Mustangs are absolutely going to do this thing. But I do have a question for you.
Sure.
So, you know how, I mean, the SEC has been expanding aggressively over the last decade.
Yep.
They get A&M, they get Mizzou, now they're getting Texas, they're getting Oklahoma.
Yeah.
There's all this talk about maybe at some point in the future them adding a Florida State, adding a Clemson, maybe in North Carolina. Remember back in the day, Tulane was an SEC school.
Yes, they were.
If Tulane can go on a stretch where they dominate that American Athletic Conference, do you think maybe by 2030 we see an invite offered to Tulane?
I mean, it depends on how well Tulane does and whether this is
Because, I mean, the SEC already has a foothold in Louisiana with LSU.
Yeah. Yes, they do.
But if they get a foothold in New Orleans,
itself, yeah.
Like that could be huge. And it would be huge for the Green Wave down there as well.
I mean, it's certainly possible. I don't know that they would. I think if anything, the SEC will. They
would look to add
high-profile teams,
right?
Something that can increase the bankroll is all they're looking at. That's why Texas and Oklahoma are coming.
Oh, 100%.
That's the whole deal. And I just believe that's probably what they'll look at. We've got Michigan. We've got Iowa. The line's Michigan by 23. And that will take place at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, Michigan's in no danger because they're favored by 23 points, and Iowa can't score 23 points.
No.
No.
This is true.
Let's see. The most points Iowa scored in a game this season is 41, but they scored that against Western Michigan, a Group of 5 school. So against a Power 5 school, the most points they scored was 26 against an ungodly, terrible Michigan State team.
Yeah. Yeah, it
happened. They don't have a prayer of beating Michigan.
And then we've got Louisville taking on Florida State. The line is Florida State by 2.5.
Taking Louisville. Taking Louisville.
That's what we're hoping for. Jeez, man.
For my own selfish reasons. I don't actually believe in the Cardinals. I think Florida State's too good.
Yeah, I think so too, but really want Louisville to win.
I really do.
It's like Christy says, Bama's going all the way. I understand the wanting to believe that that's going to happen. Believe me. I get it. As a fan of my team, I want that for my team as well. But looking at life realistically sometimes. Now, we can say Louisville and Florida State because Florida State was out their top dog.
Right.
And that competition they'll face in Louisville should be a lot better than what it was at Florida. So we'll see what happens there this week.
I mean, Louisville's coming off the loss to Kentucky this past week by a touchdown. I mean, Kentucky's an okay team. They're not a good team. They're not a great team. That was a rivalry game, so it was heated. There was a little more. I can't say there was more at stake because this is a conference championship game. I think maybe if there's a spot where the Jordan Travis injury is going to rear its head, like this is it. It'll be the thing that keeps Florida State out of the playoff.
Yeah, agreed.
And potentially moves in a Texas and or Oregon. So here's the thing too. If Washington beats Oregon and Texas dominates Oklahoma State, still think Texas gets in. I think Texas would get in regardless of Florida State.
If Texas dominates Oklahoma State and it's impressive, oh yeah.
They'll jump Oregon, who will then be 11-2.
Yep.
Because Oregon didn't win. But also, even if Florida State does win and they go to 13-0 and they're ACC conference champions.
Yeah.
I just have this feeling that Texas beating up on Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title game will come across as more impressive than Florida State potentially just surviving Louisville.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what it feels like right now. It's like
that's right.
Florida State, yes, by surviving, you do technically win.
Mm-hmm.
You are the winner. You are the victor.
Yep.
But
there's an
it doesn't feel as rewarding when you just survive a team.
But this is the difference between college football and pro football, right? Because in college football, the eye test means a lot.
Yes.
It still does. In pro football, it's all about the wins and the losses. It's not about how pretty it was. It's just, did you do it?
Exactly.
That's all that matters in pro football. College, it's about that eye test. How sexy did it look? Or how bad did it look? Yeah, you scraped by a victory, but good Lord, you've had several of those. So, and college football is all about putting their best teams in these situations to make the most money, TV revenue going forward. It is a big business.
And the big thing, so with Louisville losing, Ole Miss is going to be in the top 10 this week in the college football playoff rankings.
Yeah.
Because they were 11 last week.
That's right.
Louisville was 10. Ole Miss is going to be there. Which means that if this was a 12-team playoff, both of our college football teams would be in the playoff.
That's true.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's not the world we live in.
It is.
That's next year.
That's true. Yes. That's next year for sure.
Where potentially both of those teams will not be in the playoffs because they'll be in the SEC. Both teams will be in the SEC.
It's just going to be wild. That'll be wild anyway. Yeah, it's just I love football. I love the whole thing. Let's switch over to NFL real quick.
Before we do, let's get in a word from our sponsors.
We definitely do need to do that. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Got to get the bills paid,
All right,
baby.
So let's go ahead and do that right now. Of course, one of those sponsors. Let me switch that out right there.
Bam. Good old Tobytown Media. If you're a real estate agent in Northwest Mississippi or just in North Mississippi in general, you should definitely try out Tobytown Media. They can provide you with stunning drone shots. They can do the virtual walkthroughs of your homes. They'll help you with staging and presenting the home to get professional pictures taken. If you are trying to sell these houses, or if you're just a homeowner that's trying to sell your own house without a real estate agent, Tobytown Media will put together the best possible package and presentation of your home. I can't recommend these guys enough. Reach out to Billy Leishman and the team over at TobytownMedia.com. Once again, that's TobytownMedia.com.
Having trouble finding the right insurance for you? Tired of corporate insurance companies whose only concern is padding the bottom line? Story Insurance has been serving the local and surrounding communities in Mississippi and Tennessee for over 20 years. Need auto, home, life, farm, or business coverage? Richard Story can help you find the right insurance to match your needs for the best rates. Call 662-560-7021 or visit his office at 5234 Highway 51 North in Senatobia, Mississippi. Story Insurance. We've got you covered. All right. So Jeff asked, who do you think will take it this year? Are you talking about college or are we talking about pro? Which one are we talking about, Jeff? That way I know which one, how to answer that. Because honestly, I'll tell you what, football, we keep waiting on the Eagles to lose or they face some good competition 2 weeks in a row, and all they did was win.
I
mean, really.
And they have the single hardest schedule in the NFL this year.
They do, and all they keep doing is winning. So,
you think in the last 2 weeks they've beaten Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen?
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And that's saying something.
Hasn't been just the most impressive of wins, but they're wins all the same.
So he's asked college. I mean, right now it's got to be Georgia. I mean, and we'll see what happens next week. But right now, my favorite still has to be Georgia because they're still the most impressive team in college football right now. But man, does Michigan look good in what they're doing.
Michigan does look good. My problem with Michigan is Michigan wants to play the victim.
Yes.
You suspended our coach twice this year. Oh, your coach got himself suspended twice this year.
That's right.
You're doing underhanded things. Now, the other team on the field still has to stop you, and they're not doing it.
That's right.
So I think there is something to be said for the grittiness of that Michigan team.
Well, I think there definitely is.
But honestly, Michigan's getting off light. They've gotten a slap on the wrist twice this season. Yeah. Whereas we have definitely seen other teams that have done significantly less get way more severe punishments.
And I think
postseason bans.
And I think the second one really was because everybody knows that all teams are trying to steal signs, right? That's always been a thing as long as there's – I think that's why the NCAA decided not to really come down on it. It was like, we do this, we're going to have to – except the NCAA doesn't really normally care, so I really still don't know why they did it. But
that's because they got caught.
And I think that's all it is that they were technically caught doing it. But
the thing when Ole Miss got caught, they lost scholarships, got a 2-year bowl ban.
Yep.
And here's Michigan, but because Michigan's a playoff team.
Oh yeah.
And they've been in the top 5
and
all
they're
season
a big
long.
money market. Come on, guys. It all comes back to the dollar.
Huge blue blood program.
That's right.
Michigan's definitely going to get the rub there. I think Michigan could potentially keep pace with Georgia. The problem is, same thing we saw last year, right? Those two teams won't play each other in the first round.
No.
And Michigan has a habit of choking in big time games.
Yeah.
Last year they lost to TCU in a thriller.
Yep.
But this year, I mean, Michigan could be playing Oregon. They could be playing Washington, which I think they could beat either.
Oh, yeah.
Oregon
I
or
think
Washington.
so, too. I think so, too.
But they could be playing Texas.
Yep.
They could be playing Florida State. They play Florida State. They beat Florida State.
Yeah.
I think they could beat Texas.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it would be a
much tougher game.
Hard fought win. Like, they're going to have to earn it.
That's right.
So it really kind of depends on who they end up seeing. But I think right now, yes, Georgia is the betting favorite.
Yeah. All right, let's move over to NFL. Start with the Turkey Day games. You had Cowboys crushing the Commanders 45-10, in which we saw Deron Bland set the NFL record for pick sixes in a single season. And
it's
impressive because it's only in 11 games that he did it. And you got to remember, he didn't start the first one.
No, but he did get a pick six in that.
He did get a pick six in
it. He didn't start that one because the starters were Stephon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs.
Yep.
Of course, Diggs went out that very next week.
Yep.
In practice. Bland's got 5 pick sixes this year. He's got 5 receiving touchdowns, essentially, which means there are only 13 players in the NFL that have as many or more receiving touchdowns as Deron Bland.
That's crazy.
And he plays defense.
Yeah.
He doesn't play any offense.
Nope, just defense.
Only defense, and he's got 5 receiving touchdowns.
It was a great moment though. It was pretty awesome to see.
But the thing that kind of, I guess it didn't taint it, because it's always exciting when those pick six plays happen. But it's the fact the Cowboys were already up by 1 billion points.
Oh, yeah.
At that point, and it felt like Washington was just crushed
already.
And Sam Howell threw that ball up, and it was like you could almost see it in his body language. Like, as soon as he released it, he was like, "Oh, crap.
I messed up.
Oh, man.
This is not good."
But Deron Bland had to go a long way. Like, he had to go like 60-something yards, 63 yards.
But the way he broke on that ball.
But what I love that he did is Deron Bland pulled the old Mike Vick, the famous overtime play against the Vikings.
Yep.
Where Mike Vick is running through the defense and he made the 2 Vikings defenders collide into each other. Deron Bland did that to the Commanders offense.
Which is just indicative of their entire game.
But it was a massive game.
I love Dan Quinn's celebration up there. You see how excited he was for him.
He was pumped.
Crazy.
Everybody.
Al Harris was great too.
Dak Prescott was running down the sideline.
Yeah.
Like, he was pumped. Speaking of Prescott, 331 yards.
Yep.
4 TDs?
4 touchdowns. Yeah.
Just another massive game for Dak Prescott. Like, without question, playing the best stretch of football of his professional career.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's been really good. The Lions fall to the Packers at home, 29-22.
Man, they tried to fight back into that game, but man, Jared Goff lost 3 fumbles. You're not going to win football games doing that.
Nope. 49ers beat the Seahawks 31-13,
and were absolutely dominant.
Friday had the lone NFL game was the Dolphins and the Jets. Dolphins beat the Jets 34-13.
Did you watch this game?
Nope.
Okay.
I did not.
Well, I did.
I did not.
And it was ugly. I mean, the Dolphins' offense in the first half wasn't particularly any good. They had one good drive, really. And the Jets were in a situation where they were trying to throw a Hail Mary right before halftime to make the game, to either tie the game or maybe take the lead right before halftime. And they throw the Hail Mary. I can't even remember the kid's name. Tim Boyle. Tim Boyle launches the ball, man. He got it to about the goal line, the half-yard line. Problem is, he got picked off by Javon Holland, and then Javon Holland weaved through the Jets' offense 99.5 yards for a pick six, going into halftime, and made the game like 20-3 or whatever it was. And it was just Miami after that. The Jets did eventually score their first offensive touchdown in like 50 drives or whatever it was, something ridiculous. But it was really, really hard to watch the New York Jets play offense.
And Jets fans everywhere, it's just keep asking the what if question, man. Just
what if Rodgers had gone down?
What would this season have been like? What could it have been for
Rodgers
us?
would have gone down eventually because that offensive line's terrible.
They are pretty awful.
I mean, they're bad.
He's probably thinking, you know what? I'm glad I did it to myself before I could allow them to do it to me.
Yeah, I'll give them another off season to build that line.
We got to get that better. Falcons beat the Saints 24-15.
Yeah. Atlanta now leading the division in the NFC South at a lovely record of 5-6.
So sad.
So here's the thing: someone's got to win that division.
Yes.
Right. I think I'm 98% positive the Eagles are going to win the NFC East.
Yes.
Which means the Dallas Cowboys are going to go on the road to either Atlanta or New Orleans.
That's right. One of the two
and
places.
have to dog walk either of those teams in front of their home crowd.
Yeah.
Like they did Tampa Bay last year.
Yeah, no question.
Before they then go on the road to like either the 49ers or the Eagles and then get embarrassed.
That's right. One of the two happen. Hey, but at least Dak could get another playoff win. I guess that's good.
Yeah. Before he gets another loss.
That's right. The Steelers beat the Bengals 16-10.
And another terrible game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just awful, man.
How about look, I say it's terrible. Like the offenses were moving the ball. They just couldn't score.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh fired Matt Canada, turned around, and I think they had like 400 or 500 total yards of offense 1 week after they fired their OC. So Pittsburgh trending the right direction, but they got to find ways to get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, and Bengals without their quarterback.
Yeah, it's done for them, man.
The Titans beat the Panthers 17-10. We'll see old Frankie Reich's last game as the Panthers head coach.
Yeah, woke up this morning. Frank Reich had been fired. Rough season for Carolina. Oh, speaking of Carolina and Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So since 1956, 57, something like that, Pittsburgh Steelers have had 6 head coaches.
Yes.
In 65 years.
That's right.
They've had 6 coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Noll.
We figured Chuck Noll's the longest termed one.
Yeah.
Of course.
And, Bill Cowher.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin.
When you look at that, Mike Tomlin, Bill Cowher, and Chuck Noll eats up the majority of all of that, right?
Yeah. I mean, Tomlin's been there almost 20 years.
Yep.
Cowher was there, 15-ish years?
Something like that.
And then Chuck Noll was there for damn near 30 years.
Yep.
So they've had 6 coaches since the late 1950s.
It's just wild.
Carolina has had 6 head coaches since 2019.
Which is sad. So sad. That's so pathetic.
What are we doing?
Well, apparently Carolina doesn't know. They just
Jesus
don't know.
Christ,
They
man.
cannot get out of their own way. Matt says the Bengals miss Joe Burrow horribly. Yes, they do.
Yeah,
Jeff said we finally got rid of that butthead talking about the offensive coordinator. Yes, you did. So, I mean, yeah, it's still funny, but yeah, it's true. The Colts beat the Buccaneers 27-20 to go to 6-5. Look at the Colts with a winning record.
Well, Anthony Richardson did a decent job before he got finished for the year.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew Mania might be resurrecting itself, man.
What a great name, though.
He just finds ways to win from Brandon, Mississippi, right down the road.
Dude, every time.
Played literally across the street here at Northwest and won a national championship.
Just every time I see him, I think of Uncle Rico, right? From Napoleon Dynamite.
If Uncle Rico had a mane.
That's right.
If
he had the hair. That's what I think of Gardner Minshew.
But he does it.
He got it done.
But yeah, they're 6-5. They did cut Shaq Leonard last week,
Yeah.
which is wild. The same Shaq Leonard who is taking a visit with the Dallas Cowboys this week, by the way.
That is true. The Giants beat the Patriots 10-7.
The Patriots have now lost 2 games in a row where they gave up 10 or fewer points.
Yeah.
That's how bad their offense is.
Bad. And once again, Max Jones gets benched. I think they just like benching him.
Just quit putting him out there.
That's what I'm saying.
Just run.
I mean, if you know you're going to bench him anyway.
Yeah, just run Bailey Zappi. And they cut the Cowboys' former third-string guy. Had the big preseason game. Played at West Virginia. Can't think of his name.
Oh,
Right?
oh my God. Because we hated when he got cut.
Yeah, because I mean, he just
He was so good.
He went off this preseason.
Oh my goodness, that's gonna bug me now because I like the guy.
I'm
You have to find out, dude.
Yeah.
Jaguars beat the Texans 24-21.
But the point is, the Patriots cut him.
Yes,
They're still rolling with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi.
that's right. I would keep the other team. Just let him go out there. You're not gonna be any worse than what you're doing.
Will Greer.
Will Greer, that's right.
It's Will Greer. They cut Will Greer. The Patriots did.
Broncos beat the Browns 29-12. The Broncos
And they
scored 29 points.
They look pretty impressive doing it, man. Like I know the numbers aren't flashy, but it felt like a full, complete team win. And the Broncos, by the way, were 1-5.
Yeah.
And now they're 6-5.
Which is stupid. That's crazy.
They have won 5 straight games beating the Browns, who are one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Yep.
Beat the Vikings, who are not very good.
Nope.
They beat the Bills, who can be good and can be terrible. They beat the Chiefs pretty dominantly.
Yeah.
And they beat the Packers. But what's wild is you look at how they started the year. They lost to the very average to bad Raiders.
Yeah.
They lost to the bad Commanders.
Yeah.
They got absolutely dominated by the Dolphins.
Yes. That was horrible.
They beat the terrible Bears.
There you go.
They lost to the terrible Jets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they lost to the Chiefs. So like the last 5 games, the level of competition has been much better than the first 6 games that they played.
And they've been better the last 5.
And they've been much better the last 5.
We had the Rams beating the Cardinals 37-14.
Oh, I mean, that's fair. Cardinals they're god awful.
Chiefs beat the Raiders 31-17. The Eagles beat the Bills 37-34 in a thriller.
Josh Allen.
That the Bills should have won.
Your receiver's
way.
wide open.
Yeah.
Wide open. I say wide open. I mean, he's got 3 yards of separation between him and the defender, and in the NFL, that's wide open.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if the receiver ran the wrong route. It looked like the receiver ran a corner route, and Josh Allen, I guess, was expecting him to run a post. And so that was the miscue, man. But if they were on the same page, Buffalo walks it off in overtime.
Well, they shouldn't have been to overtime.
No, they should.
They had this game in hand. And, again, let it slide. That whole fourth quarter.
Of course, Buffalo's kicker missed a field goal.
Yep.
Which would have won the game for them. They wouldn't have gone to overtime.
And finally had the Ravens beating the Chargers 22-10.
Speaking of missed field goals, Justin Tucker misses a field goal in this game against the Chargers. Which
for him, he's missed this season.
He's missed quite a few, but it drops his career-made field goal percentage down to like 89 point something. So it's the first time it's ever been below 90.
That's wild.
But it also puts him second in NFL history for made field goal percentage. He is now behind Younghoe Koo. Younghoe Koo's still sitting in the low 90s. He's like 90.4%.
Yeah.
The difference is Justin Tucker's kicked about 300 more career field goals than Younghoe Koo.
Right.
You know?
Hardly fair. All right.
We got Bears, Vikings tonight.
Vikings tonight. Who do you care for or not care for? Or what does it matter?
Minnesota's quarterback is hurt. Chicago's they can't win games, but man, they look like they're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're right.
I mean, you look at the Lions game 2 weeks ago. They were winning that game with, just minutes left before the defense and offense collapsed.
Yes.
I think with Minnesota not having Kirk Cousins, they don't have Dalvin Cook.
Yep.
They don't have Justin Jefferson. Like, the opportunity is as good as it's going to get for Chicago to win this game.
Absolutely. All right, Thursday night, Seahawks go to Texas, take on the Cowboys. Lions Dallas by 8.5 at home.
Yeah, definitely rolling with Dallas. Seattle's just so hit or miss, up and down, Jekyll and Hyde.
You got Sunday, you got the Colts, Titans, the Lions, Indy by 2.5 on the road.
Yeah, I'm rolling with Indy as well.
You got the Chargers, Patriots, the Lions, Chargers by 6 on the road.
The difference here is the Chargers can't figure out how to win a game, and the Patriots just flat out don't want to.
There you
So I'm
go.
taking the Chargers on the road.
You got the Lions going to New Orleans, take on the Saints. The Lions Detroit by 4 on the road.
Taking the Lions.
You got the Falcons and the Jets. The Lions Atlanta by 3 on the road.
This is really a pick'em game of futility, but I'm going to take the Falcons.
You've got Cardinals and the Steelers. Lions Pittsburgh by 5.5 at home.
I'm taking Pittsburgh. We've gone through 6 games and we've taken 2 home, or I've taken 2 home teams.
I'm there with you. I agree. I don't see the Cardinals doing anything different to beat the Steelers here. You've got the Dolphins, the Commanders, Lions Miami by 9.5 on the road.
Yeah, Miami on the road.
You've got Broncos, Texans, the Lions Houston by 3.5 at home.
So this is where it gets interesting, right?
Yes, it does.
Because Houston has surpassed expectations, but it's not like they're great.
No.
Like they're winning games. CJ Stroud looks like he's on pace to have an incredible career, right?
Yep.
And Denver's just going out and winning football games here lately against really good teams.
Mm-hmm.
Some average teams, some bad teams, but they're winning games, man. I'm going to keep this road team thing going. I'm going to say Denver on the road.
All right. Panthers, Bucks, Lions Tampa Bay by 5 at home.
Well, the road thing ends here. Tampa Bay at home.
All right. You got the Browns, the Rams. The line is Rams by 4.5 at home.
Taking Cleveland on the road.
Okay. 49ers, Eagles. The line is San Francisco by 2.5 on the road. I got to go one tag team partner here and pick the 49ers. Got to.
Well, I hate both of these squads, but it benefits the Cowboys for the 49ers to win it, so that's what I'm rolling with.
There you go. And we've got the Chiefs and the Packers. The line is KC by 6.5 on the road.
Yeah, Kansas City.
And then finally, of course, next Monday, we'll have the Bengals and the Jaguars. Lions Jacksonville by 8.
Yeah, Jacksonville at home, baby.
There you go. We go ahead and pick that game right now.
So how many home teams I got here? I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I picked 4 total home teams to win.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that feels weird.
Seriously.
And then the bye weeks this week, man. You got Buffalo, Chicago, Vegas, Minnesota, the Giants, and the Ravens all on week 13 buys.
So bad team,
okay
bad
team.
So you got
4 bad teams,
4 really bad teams,
an average team, and a good team.
Yeah, let's do that. Because who knows what Buffalo is at this point.
Yeah, so let's back up for the talking about the Eagles.
All right.
So 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, I guess, because you got to talk, they had a bye week in there. This rough stretch for them started, I guess it goes back 2 weeks before that, really. Started with the Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Dolphins by 2 touchdowns, coming off the heels of them losing to the Jets.
Yes.
The Eagles, that is, losing to the Jets. They have this really rough stretch where they play the Dolphins, beat them by 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Then they play the Commanders, beat them by 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
Then they play the Cowboys, beat them by 5 after the Cowboys had 6,700 opportunities at the end of that game to win it and couldn't do it.
That's right.
And it was more indicative of the Cowboys just, I can't say that. The Eagles made some plays on defense. But then they get the bye week, come out of the bye week, beat the Chiefs by 4. Following week, beat the Bills by 3 in overtime. This week, they get the 49ers. Next week, they go on the road to Dallas. After that, they go to Seattle, all the way across the country. And then they get 3 cupcakes to end the season.
Yeah.
So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in this stretch over 9 weeks. Only 1 bad team, truly bad team in the bunch.
Yeah.
So really 7 games against good quality opposition. And through that stretch, they are 5-5 with 3 to go.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles rather have not been dominant in the sense of like blowing teams out.
Yeah.
Right. They just haven't done that this year.
But they win.
But they just win.
They win. And it's, to me they're like their quarterback. because I love Jalen Hurts. I've always said this, and I'll never walk back from it. I love the kid, and I love his mindset. All he did was get booted from Alabama after carrying that college team forever.
Because he had a bad half of football in the national title game.
And then he goes to Oklahoma, and all he does is go there
and succeed.
Win. And it continues to and he went there with a mindset that I'm just a college. I'm going to go out here and he went with a mindset that I still got to learn. How do I get better? How do I improve my game? When the Eagles got Jalen Hurts, they got a diamond in the rough because this kid, for anybody paying attention, always had because you have. I think that's a problem with a lot of these college quarterbacks going to the NFL. They already think they know a lot of it, and even the ones who are talking the game, well, I know I have a lot to learn. They don't believe it.
Right.
They think I've been told how I'm so good all this time, but Jalen went in there with the mindset of I want to be better. I've got to get better. If I'm going to play at this level, I've got to keep being better. I love that mindset. That's how your winning quarterbacks are created. It's not this, well, I was just good in college. That's what I'm going to go into the NFL with. And we see how many of these quarterbacks wash out that are supposedly great in college.
Right.
But they can't do anything in the NFL. I love what Jalen's doing. I say it's with the enemy, but I do love what he's doing. And I think that's why these are games that behind any other quarterback they would have had, they would lose.
Yeah, and Jalen Hurts played probably the worst half of his professional football career against Buffalo in the first half.
Yeah.
Like statistically, the worst he's ever been in any half of football. But in the second half, corrected all that.
Yep.
Got it all going. Passing game was going. Running game was going. The brotherly shove was going. Like, just had it rolling.
But that's the thing. This dude is not afraid to. He's not one of those that dwells on his mistakes, right? He learns what I do wrong, and he's not afraid to go out there and still play.
Right. And the thing about the Eagles
doesn't bother him.
The thing that just really gets me about the Eagles is everyone knows what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And when they're going to do it.
Uh-huh.
Their first down tendencies, second down tendencies,
you can't stop it, though.
Third down tendencies, fourth and short tendencies. Like, we all know what they're doing.
That's right.
And no one can stop it.
To me, and I hate to bring this around, but
and I'm not talking about just the brotherly shove, which is
right.
the single most automatic play in football, but just in general. Like, you know when Devontae is about to run a short slant. You know when Devontae is about to run a fly. You know when A.J. Brown's about to run a post or a corner.
Still can't stop it.
You know the ball's going there.
But you can't stop it.
Can't stop it.
It's like the Cowboys in the 90s. Everybody knew what they were going to do. The lead draw is coming. You know it is. And you still can't stop the thing. That's how you know they're so good. Because when you can advertise what you're going to do, people know you're not getting away from what you do because you do it so well.
Absolutely.
And you still put it down people's throats. Dude, they're just good that way.
You know what we didn't talk about in the Cowboys game?
What's that?
The Jalen Brooks helmet deflection catch.
Dude, that was so good. That was so good.
How about that dude, 7th round pick, and he's played better than almost every draft pick, every wide receiver draft pick not named CD Lamb.
I swear. He was. It was great to see. But talking about when things go your way, and man, did they not do that? It was kind of awesome. All right, it's that time of the show.
Oh, by the way, Cowboys got a real rough stretch coming up.
Oh, they got. I looked at that.
So they got Seahawks at home.
Yep.
Eagles at home.
Yep.
Then they're on the road at Buffalo, on the road at the Dolphins, then home against the Lions.
Yeah. It's gonna be tough.
I'm really, like the Lions are good, but I'm not concerned about them because their defense isn't very good.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys put up points. The Eagles have great defense, have great offense. Like, that's a concern.
Oh, yeah.
The Bills' defense is okay. Like, they've got dogs on the defense, and the offense has dogs, but they're just not consistent.
No, real prone to mistakes.
So that one could go either way. And the Dolphins, if their offense doesn't get on fire quick,
they're done.
Then the Cowboys could boat race them.
Yeah.
If the Cowboys get their offense going quick.
Well,
that's been an issue too.
Yeah, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be an issue. But we will see. All right, guys, it's that time. It's time for awards for the week. Who are y'all's awards for the week? I know what we're going to be bringing on here. We're going to talk about it. But first, we got to go with the Drizzler. There you go. It's the Drizzler Award. Jay, say who's your Drizzler?
My Drizzler this week, God, for so many reasons, but going to kind of keep it simple. Carolina Panthers organization. Like, you spent a lot of draft picks. You traded away your best players. And it's not, and I don't even think that they drafted badly. But they can't get a coach in there to put it all together. But they're also not giving coaches chances. I mean, they're firing them pretty quick.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Rule got the longest run of any coach in recent Panthers history. And until they stabilize that position, they're just never going to have success. I mean, Frank Wright, I guess he hasn't been a great head coach. Like, his run in Indy was not successful. One of the best offensive coordinators in the game when he was with Philly. But now he's out of a job. Carolina is sitting at 1-10 with a .091 winning percentage. They're 1-4 at home, 0-6 on the road, 0-2 in division play, 0-7 in conference play. They have a point differential of -119.
Oh my Lord.
Just absolutely atrocious. They would have the number 1 overall pick in the draft, but they traded that to the Bears. So right now, the ineptitude is so strong all the way around. Carolina Panthers, y'all are the Drizzlers this week.
So I've been back and forth on this one between Jets, Patriots. In one sense, I know that the Jets don't have many options. I say that, they probably do. But I'm more disappointed, I think, in New England. Still trotting Mac Jones out there for a half of football every Sunday just to bench him. So I got to go with that. I mean, if this is Bill Belichick phoning it in, then trying to make it look like at least halfway through football, he's trying to make an effort to get his team over. He's doing a great job of it. Academy Award goes to you, buddy. But they are definitely – Patriots are definitely my drizzle for the week.
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to think of who it was because I don't want to attribute the quote to the wrong person. But I think it was Marcus Spears. But he was talking about No, it was Rex Ryan. That's who it was. It was Rex Ryan. He was talking about the Patriot way and how it just wears down young guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very old school throwback mentality that just doesn't work with the modern player.
Yeah.
And he was talking about that and basically said that the only reason Bill Belichick ever had success to begin with is because of Tom Brady. It's like, Jesus, man. Just kick the man while he's down.
That's right.
However, but what we have seen since Tom Brady left the Patriots was we watched Tom Brady win another Super Bowl.
Yep.
Continue to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
All 3 years he was in Tampa.
That's right.
And the Patriots haven't been back to the playoffs.
No, they have not. So there's definitely some truth there to an extent. All right.
This is a tasty burger. You ever had a Big Kahuna burger? Want a bite? They're real tasty.
They are definitely real tasty. So who is your big bite of deliciousness?
The Big Kahuna this week is Girl Dad number 4, Big Dad Prescott, a.k.a. Dak Prescott. Dakota Rain, first of his name. 22 of 32 this week, 331 yards. Average pass, 10.3 yards.
That's insane.
Or average completion, 10.3 yards. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. His longest pass was 35. He had a quarterback rating of 142.1.
That's just smoking it this season.
Yes, I get it. As Commanders, they're terrible. Well, that was his passer rating, 142.1. His QBR was 87.0. Yeah, they were a terrible team, but you know what? He went out there and just whooped their ass.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, too, and I think people tend to leave out is if Dak was awful, then you know what? He would be like these other teams, not putting up numbers and not doing the thing. So you can't sit there and tell me the man is bad because he plays bad competition. There are a lot of people play bad competition. But are you going to rise up and do what you're supposed to do? Sure he is. He had a good game versus the Eagles.
Yeah.
He had a great game versus the Eagles. Yeah, they lost, but still he had a great game versus – he wasn't the reason they lost that game. So, this whole narrative that Dak is just a mediocre quarterback, he's just facing the worst schedule in football, which is not true. There's a lot of bad football out there right now. Let's just be honest. So when Tom Brady says the NFL is mediocre right now, not really wrong. I mean, he's not, but but staying in for the big kahuna. Deron Bland, he said NFL history this week. NFL history, not just Dallas Cowboys history or anything.
Which he did that too,
but NFL history. That means all the DBs
that
have ever played the game have not had 5 pick sixes in a single season, and we're just 2/3 of the way through the season. That's impressive. That's impressive for a man who's just in his second season of football.
5th round pick out of Fresno State.
Exactly. This guy wasn't highly touted. He's like, he's got skills. We can still bring him in here. And Dan Quinn liked what he saw. The whole team did. Humble young man, but to do what he's done, just have that nose for the ball and just play the position. And it used to be a wide receiver. Yeah. Converted over to DB.
Same with Trayvon.
Yep. And those hand skills are good use of running skills. The nose for the end zone and know what to do with the ball after you get it in your hands. All on display. It was a cool moment. I love Jim Nance's call. It was great.
Yeah, iconic call.
Because they're just having a casual conversation. And then as soon as it happens, he flips that switch. It was awesome. That was really cool moment right there. So definitely my big.
The only thing I didn't like about Jim Nance's call was as soon as Deron Bland got his hands on the ball, like Jim Nance was already saying, "This is it." And I was like, "Whoa, dude! Like he's on the other side of the field. He's got a long way to go."
But man, he was just—it's like he knew right then, right? Like, well, he did say, if he scores, if he can score, but. And then that beautiful move down there where he just makes the defenders crash into each other and not even knowing the other guy was right there behind him like he was. Just sidesteps the defender coming in, and it was beautiful. It was great. And kudos to that young man right there because that's a moment that's got to be just – that place erupted. His teammates erupted. That's a cool thing. I've been waiting on sounds of the sidelines all week.
Oh, yeah.
So I can hear all of this because
they got to enjoy their Thanksgiving weekend.
That's right. So we'll probably see it tomorrow, Wednesday, but still, that's pretty cool.
But one more thing on Dak Prescott before we go. So over his last 5 games, 127 completions on 180 attempts, good for 71.1 completion percentage, 1,602 yards in his last 5 games, averaging 9 yards per completion. 17 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions with a long of 41 with a passer rating of 124.9. Compare that against his career stats. He is a career 66.9% completion percentage. So he's up 4.2%.
Yeah.
His average pass over his career, 7.6 yards per completion. He's averaging 9 right now over the last 5. And his passer rating for his career is 98.8, and he's at 124.9 over the last 5 games.
Good Lord. Hey, Dak, get it done, buddy. Get it done.
Granted, they've only played one good team in the last 5 games, but
still, at least you're getting it done.
And that was the Eagles, where he had 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions.
Yeah.
The only difference in that game is he was sacked 5 times, which hurt his QBR.
Still. Good job, Dak. At least we got a few bright spots going on. All right, folks, we appreciate y'all tuning in. Again, championship week is upon us in college football. A lot of craziness about to happen. A lot of debates are about to take place come next Tuesday night, I would imagine. Well, I think they'll make the announcement. Don't they normally do that on earlier, right? Sunday night, right?
I think
that's what they do in the season. Because as soon as that day is over with, they go and they start getting and putting this together. So to be in that room, hearing some of the conversations that are going to take place,
I wonder how
the voting
it gets.
I do too.
Because everyone on that committee, like they all went to college, or they all currently work for a college.
That's right.
So it's not like they don't have a bias.
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt biases going on in there. So it is going to be interesting come next Tuesday, but we got to get to the games first. see if we have any upsets happen, anything spectacular happen, because teams' fates all depend on what goes on this weekend.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be a wild one. All right, folks. We'll see y'all next Monday right here, Undefined Blitz on Undefined Radio. Appreciate you tuning in. JC, this is Big Daddy. We'll see y'all soon.